Hey, somebody needs to pump the pump. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. Our sponsor today is itam.org. This is IAITAM.org. They're the only global member-based training organization dedicated to meeting the needs of IT asset management professionals. ITAM is the only global training organization turning out IT asset managers that corporations are immediately hiring all over the world. So check them out. How'd you like to complete an accredited online program and get a degree that is actually in huge demand? Okay, so you're asking, in huge demand by whom? Hey, just go to itam.org, IAITAM.org. Look through their member list. You'll see everybody from Sony Pictures to NASA to the United Nations, Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple. These companies only hire the people that ITAM has trained because ITAM offers the only accredited degree in the field. That's itam.org. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And as you know, we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. We have a guest today that is genetically prepared to deliver both observations and answers from not only his generation, but his dad's generation. We have a friend of mine. He is the author of 10 Leadership Virtues for Disruptive Times. Please welcome the proud son of Zig Ziglar, Tom Ziglar. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey, man, like I tell everybody, I'm better than good, but that's genetically required.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you in Dallas today?
I am. I'm in my home in Plano, coming to you from the home studio. I kind of like this remote studio setup. I like that.
I know, a lot of people were like freaking with what they were going to do during the pandemic. And I was like, okay, well, it's what we have to deal with. And so let's figure out the good things about it. And, I have found out how much I did not like to travel. And I've been doing it for years. I don't know that travel ever used to be fun, but it wasn't always brutal. And I think it's brutal now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It was weird. I wanted to travel, and then the first trip out, I was reminded of why I don't really like to travel that much.
I know. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Hey, so your new book is out, right? And we couldn't have. I mean, these are. I think you got the title right because these are disruptive times. What were you thinking as you prepared this book?
Well, I'll be really honest. The book was it was a 2-book deal that we did with the publisher with Thomas Nelson, and the first book was Choose to Win. And they said we want to do 2 books, and I'm like, well, I don't know what the next book's going to be. They said, oh, you've got a year. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I started writing at the end of 2019, and I had this great idea. And then March 2020 happened, and that went out the window. And so for 18 months, all I did was study the change in business and in people because of the pandemic, because of all the dominoes. And so this book is written for this time, but it's also evergreen because I think disruption is only going to increase in intensity and frequency.
Yeah. Oh, right. I absolutely agree. So somebody asked me recently, they said, how do you deal with the uncertainty of today's world? And I said, the same way that I have dealt with the uncertainty of the world before whatever this is you call uncertainty hit, because life has always been uncertain. I mean, every day is uncertain, and it's just sometimes we pay more attention to it than others. But I think there's a healthy balance, and I think your book is going to help So, what things changed during the pandemic? You said you were watching people and businesses. So, what did you see shift?
Well, I started studying. I'm kind of a nerd. Just these big changes in data input. Like when that first shutdown happened, we were saving 60 million hours a day in commute. And that's just the United States. After a while, 60 million hours a day adds up. And then we discovered that of that saved commute time, people were taking 33% of that time and putting it back into work. Out of 125 million workers in the US, 60 million of them can work either full-time or hybrid from home. And so something really weird happened. Performance and productivity went up. And then people's values started changing because a lot of people got laid off. A lot of people's jobs, now they're having to do it with the kids running in the background. They got reacquainted with their family, right? Suddenly they could work out at lunch. And if they were sweaty, it didn't matter for the Zoom call, right? They could just do their hair. And so purpose and intention became a much bigger priority. Quality of life became a much bigger priority. There's a JobSage survey that came out in April, and it basically, they did a survey of over 2,000 people. 28% of them quit their job in the last 2 years for mental health reasons. 1 in 4 quit. So we've seen this great resignation happen. And what leaders are having a hard time understanding is that people, they want quality of life. They want to pursue their purpose. They want to grow. And it's not, and I use this example for the majority of people in the United States and a lot of countries, they had their work and then everything else revolved around it. That's a backward situation. Millions of people figured out, wait a second, I can put the things that are the most important thing in my life in the center, my faith, my family, my physical health, my relationships, and then work can revolve around that. So that's how people have changed. But leaders are, a lot of them aren't figuring it out. They're a little slow on this.
I agree. I see that too. Why do you think they're slow? Why? I mean, what is it that we're seeing that they're not seeing?
There's built-in bias. And I kind of, in the book, I talk about it, but I say there's, and I'm just using stereotypes here, but there's 2 types of leaders. There's the top-down, command and control, do it because I said so, hierarchical leader, right? And that's the way most leaders are. That's the way they were led. That's the way they're going to go out and lead. And what they like to do is measure output. They get really uncomfortable when they can't see somebody working. Right. One of the things that happened at the beginning of the pandemic is some companies actually installed what they called tattletale software on their employees' computers at home. And what this software would do,
UPS drivers have had it for several years.
Yeah. And what it does is it would take a picture of that person every 60 seconds so that their boss could see that they're sitting at their computer. Which, yeah. So if you treat somebody like a 5-year-old, how are they going to act?
Right.
Like a 3-year-old.
That's exactly right. Oh my gosh.
Oh. And so they are focused on output, and they get really scared of a camera. People believe you cannot build a relationship, in distance on a camera on a Zoom call. But every year we fall in love with the new romance novel that comes out where a couple meets online, they never see each other, and they get married sight unseen.
Right.
And so it's a bias against it. The leaders who here's the thing is it's only important if you want to keep your top performers. If you don't care about losing your top people, it's really not a big deal.
You mentioned 1 in 4 leaving their jobs.
Yep,
1 in 4.
28%.
Why is that happening, do you think?
So that survey goes a little deeper and it tells us why. They asked them, okay, so in the mental health area, 28% quit their job. Underneath that, what were the driving factors? So they gave them different choices. So they could choose more than one. 55% said stress and burnout. 38% said depression. And 37% said lack of motivation. And so if that's the problem, what's the antidote? Okay, so Ziglar's always on the solution side. So what is the antidote to stress and burnout? It's quality of life. If mentally I've got a positive outlook, there's hope in the future. I know I have a choice as to what I can do. I have power in my choices. So mentally, I'm strong. Spiritually, if I sleep good at night, if I have faith, if I know that there's hope in the future. Physically, if I'm sleeping right, I'm getting enough exercise and food and handling stress. Family, I've got great relationships going on. Financially, I've got a budget and a plan, maybe a little bit of security. I've got a roadmap. Personally, I'm building myself. There's hobbies and things that I love. I'm creating energy and have self-care. Those are the first 6 areas of life. If those things are solid, you're not going to burn out in your job, right? You might leave because it's toxic or you're not working with good people.
Right.
Or it's not really a great fit, but you're not going to burn out. And so the first thing that what we call coach leaders, who's the right example of a leader, coach leaders, they make it a priority to build relationships with each person on their team. And then they help them build a quality of life. The second one is depression. 38% said they left because of depression. So what's the antidote? It's purpose. A good friend of mine, Rabbi Daniel Lappin, he's got this fantastic quote. He says, the opposite of depression is not happiness. The opposite of depression is purpose. And so a coach leader, a great leader, every single day, they say, hey, this is our mission. This is our purpose. This is the problem we solve. This is the difference we make. Here's how we support each other. These are the virtues that we live by. And then they take the time to find out what each person on their team's purpose is. And they get alignment in that. And the last one is lack of motivation, 37%. So what's the antidote? It's goals and growth. And so a great leader will come to somebody on their team and they'll say, hey, do you want to make more money next year than you did this year? And that person, if they're telling the truth, is going to say, yes. Fantastic. That's my job here, to help you make more money. But the only way I can do that is if you are a contributing factor to the growth and profitability of the company. Does that sound fair? Well, yeah, that sounds fair. Okay, fantastic. So how do you need to grow as an individual and in your job so that you can contribute more so we can pay you more? And so when people are growing and they know that leadership has a vested interest in helping them grow, people don't leave where they're growing, especially if it's for an organization that's fulfilling a purpose, that's making a difference, and they know leadership cares about their quality of life and makes decisions that help them build that quality of life.
Right. Yeah.
That's,
this book, I think it has obvious value beyond just the business, the professional side of life. I think this has great value in the personal side of life, which I don't see how anybody can separate their personal and their professional life. It's kind of one and the same. I mean, who you are is who you are. And I mean, maybe the activity is different, but the purpose, your overall purpose. I mean, my purpose is to help people live the life they would live if they only knew how, and I'm doing that whether I'm working or not working or whatever. So I'm excited about this book, Tom. Hey, how do you catch a unicorn?
so, so now we're talking about personal life. So I'm coaching this guy, okay, in early 30s, multi-millionaire, right? Extremely successful and in real estate. And he goes, Tom, I think I want to get married. I go, that's awesome. He goes, I think I should start dating first. And so we start laughing and I go, yeah, that's usually the way it goes. He goes, yeah, I haven't been on a date since I was 17. So here's a human being who's put all of his energy into his career, right? Doesn't even have time to go on a date. And I go, okay, well, tell me, who do you want to marry? And just like anybody who's like had marriage on their brain for a while, he had the list.
Really?
Yeah, he had the list, man. He's like, oh, she's going to be athletic and she's going to be fun and she's going to have a great sense of humor and she's going to be smart and kind and generous and compassionate and adventuresome. I mean, and he just goes on.
Wow, is he got a great imagination?
So he's just going down the list and it's like a 2-minute list. And then he stops and he gets this big look on his face and he goes, I just described a unicorn, didn't I? They don't exist. And I laughed and I go, yeah, maybe. And he goes, how do you catch a unicorn? I said, oh, it's not easy, but you can do it. He goes, what do you do? And I said, hey, take that list and then make your own list and then write down the virtues and the character qualities that you need to demonstrate that would attract that person.
That would attract that, yeah. That's a great answer.
So if you're a business owner, leader, and you want to build an amazing business, right, that makes a difference, and you know you've got to have top performers on that team, why don't you just write out the virtues and the attributes and the character qualities of what you want in a top performer? And then right next to it, write down what you've got to demonstrate that would attract that person. And so the book, 10 Virtues, the first part of the book is about the mindset that we've got to have as a coach leader. How do we create a mindset that allows us to thrive in disruption?
Right.
And then the 10 Virtues is the answer to this. Everybody says love your people, but nobody tells you how. And so the virtues are, how do you love your people? And we go through humility and kindness and respect and all these virtues. And then the last part of the book is, I believe, the number one skill that a leader needs, and that's how to coach, how to have a coaching conversation with your people, one-on-one. It's the silver bullet. And every week you're asking that person questions, because coaches ask, they don't tell. Is that a good plan? Well, let me ask you, would you rather be told what to do or asked, how do you think is the best way to do it? Now it's like, we all like to be asked, right? So the 10 virtues is, how do I love someone? And Andy, this is where I want to pat myself on the back. We came up with these 10 virtues copying 1 Corinthians 13. I mean, if you're going to plagiarize something, that's probably the place to go. It's right out of 1 Corinthians 13.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, we're going to have how to get the book. Let me ask you this: where would you prefer we buy the book?
Okay, so this is an interesting thing. You can get it anywhere, but if you want to get an autograph on it, You go to Ziglar.com.
Okay. All right. We will
Now,
have that on the show notes.
Dad used to say, you can take $1 and my autograph and get a cup of coffee at McDonald's. Right? So it's been an inside Ziglar joke of how much is an autograph worth. Okay. Well, when you buy it from Ziglar, just know that what you're paying for your autograph is shipping.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I want to ask you something that this is just kind of totally changing. Before we go here, I got to spend a fair amount of time around your dad before he passed away, and you obviously spent 50 something years with your dad. So, and now, and this is, I am not comparing me with Zig Ziglar, okay? But I know that a lot of our travel schedule and just the kind of things we do were a lot alike, and so I was always interested in watching you as an adult, watching my boys and what they were going through, as just watching me and being around me and traveling. I remember that time in that arena, and I've got a picture of it of Austin and Adam, and they were probably, I don't know, 6 and 8, and introduced them to your dad, and they were just in awe because I had built it up coming over, and your dad was, it was great. He was like, I can spot a winner a mile away. I looked at those boys and I said, there's a winner. And it was so great. And I said, Austin, what did I tell you about Mr. Ziglar? And he said, you said that he was the greatest speaker that ever was and that would ever will be. And your dad went, really? I don't know about that. But man, I love those pictures. So here's what I'm curious about. When you were little and your dad is getting so much attention when you're going through airports and stuff like that, what are you thinking? What was going through your mind?
wow. So when I was little, I'm kind of slow. It was just normal, and I didn't know that he was such a big deal. And then we go, and then I thought it was crazy, okay? Because when I was 12, Dad was speaking in a keynote for Shackley in Minnesota in March. And they made him the grand marshal of the parade. And we sat in the back of a convertible sitting up on the back part, right? And Andy, it's like 20 degrees.
Yeah. Oh.
And all these people are going nuts. And I'm like, okay, so this is crazy, right? And then I grew a little bit and I started seeing the changed lives. I remember when I figured out the business that we were in, the life-changing. It wasn't the speaking business. It was a life-changing business. I was in the back of the room, and long story short is this guy came in, and we had all the tablecloths on the product table, so they couldn't see it. But one of them had clicked up, and he goes, is Zig Ziglar going to be there? And we said, yeah. And I said, shh, it's a secret. It was an Amway event. So he was an unannounced, the secret guest speaker. And he said, where's the line? And I go, well, it's 7:00 at night, and he doesn't start speaking until midnight. And that means it's going to be after 1 because they never run on schedule. And I said, just go sit down, and about midnight, come up here and you can come stand in the line that nobody knows exists. He stood in the line right then. So he's in a line that 30,000 people don't know exist. And 2 hours later, I'm like, this guy's got a story. He immigrated from Central America to Chicago for a better life. He was living with his brother. After 3 weeks, he said, I'm going to have to learn English if I'm going to be successful here. What do you suggest? And his brother handed him the book, See You at the Top,
Wow.
and said, translate this. Here's the dictionary, English, Spanish. Translate it into Spanish and then translate it back into English. You will learn English and it will change your life. At this point, the guy starts crying. And he's breaking down and he says, when I came here, I was an alcoholic. My wife was about to leave me. I was about to lose my kids. And now look at us.
Wow.
His marriage, he was sober. He was building the dream, just unbelievable. So that's when I was early 20s when I figured out what business we were in. And that's where everything changed for me.
Wow. Watching Austin and Adam, they went through a time when we would go into a grocery store or in an airport and people would say, hey, Andy. And I would go, hi, how are y'all? And when we'd walk away, the boys would go, do we know them? And I would go, no, I don't think so. And then somebody, hey, how are you doing, Andy? Good, good. How are you? Fine. Do we know those guys, Dad? Do we know them? No. What? How do they know you? Well, they probably just read one of Dad's books. Oh, okay. And so then there came a time that they weren't paying attention to that, or that I thought they weren't paying attention to that. But things kind of sneak up on you, and because your adult children are a little older than my adult children. My youngest is 20 years old, and so they've both grown up on a steady diet of Zig and just good stuff when I could corral them into it, right? And so Adam right now is helping a guy he's got a party boat, and the guy goes out of Orange Beach every day at 6 a.m. and 2 trips on Saturday and takes 40 people out into the Gulf on this party boat. So Adam is being a deckhand on this party boat, and they're just working for tips, right? And so there's 3 deckhands to handle 40 people that all the lines are crossing, and but they're catching big snapper and wahoo, good stuff. But Adam and one of his buddies were at the house the other day, and they were talking about the other guy. And Adam said, he needs to learn how to smile. He needs to learn how to smile because he thinks he's in the fishing business, and he needs to know he's in the people business. That's the way. There you go. Oh my gosh! I was like, yeah. I mean, that this kid would know that you're miles ahead of most adults that I run into. And because it's people, it's serving people. And Adam, he fished all last year, and he's told me many stories. He said, Dad, people, he said some of these guys will get on to them, and all. He said, people don't care if they don't catch fish. They just want to have a good time. And so when you can provide a good time and provide an experience and help them have a memory, it's awesome. But I've long watched you and Cindy and Julie, and I was in we were in Gatlinburg one time, and Julie and your dad were sitting across the table from me, and your dad, and I thought this is a memory that I carry because my boys sometimes I'll do things and the boys will go, oh, it's like, oh, yeah, what are you doing? You're embarrassing. And so, but Polly and I are like Zig Ziglar. We're eating with Zig Ziglar. I mean, this is like you're eating with the president of the United States. And so at some point during dinner, Zig says something like, and this is not it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he said, what you want in your life to be is a trophy. And he reaches in his pocket, pulls out this pad, and goes, now, if I say trophy, T would be for the trials that you're going to have to go through. R would be for, and he starts doing this, and Julie goes, oh, he always does this. And I'm like, even Zig Ziglar's kids, oh my God, he always does this. Oh, Dad, oh no. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're getting to see him create one.
Well, the backstory there is Julie was editing all of Dad's books. And so the last books that came out, he could take a story like any storyteller can, and they can make a leadership point. They can make a parent point. They can make whatever point you want, right? That story, it can be. And so every time so they said, we need a book on leadership. And so the same stories made different points. And Julie had to be the one that would say, Dad, I know and it's a different point, but the publisher, they're going to see the same story. So, and she was trying to figure out what a story was trophy going to be attached to.
I've thought about this a million times, but I've never thought about it when I was around you or Julie or Cindy, and I'm finally remembering it to just say, because I've said this to a ton of people, it is amazing to me that your dad and Jerry Clower both came from Yazoo City, Mississippi. They're two of the most famous talkers in the world. I mean, that's more extraordinary than if two singers came from Yazoo. I mean, two talkers from Yazoo City, Mississippi. I mean, how does that happen? What was in that water?
So how about this? Every year when I was growing up, we'd go to the family reunion in Yazoo City, Mississippi. And so you can only take so much of that, right? So I'm like 12, and I go over to Dad, and I tug on him, and I say, can we walk down to the Dairy Queen, whatever the place? So we walk down there, and we sit down, and there's Jerry Clower, and I guess one of his kids about my age.
Oh, my gosh.
And there we are at the Dairy Queen. Now, that guy can tell a story.
And, I knew both of them. That's my claim to fame. I knew Zig and Jerry. And so I think if your dad were alive today, he'd take a great story out of that. And he could say, did you know that James Barrie, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and Bram Stoker went to the same university and learned in the same English class? And from those three men came Sherlock Holmes, Peter Pan, and Dracula. Wherever you are, align yourself with people who are going places so that you can go places and keep up with that. I mean, you can just hear that, man.
Yes, sir. He probably would have used C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, but, that's...
Yeah, probably so. Probably so. And Kenneth Cooper at the Cooper Clinic. we used to say that Kenneth Cooper must be like just this myth. We only hear Zig talk about him, never hear him anywhere else. But We hear Zig talk about him.
I talked to Dr. Cooper last week.
Did you really? I'll be darned.
He's amazing.
So, buddy, how can we help your family? What can we do?
Probably. So the book is great, but my real mission is leaders and teaching leaders how to coach their people. It's a completely different angle, and so just any company that's struggling, or any business leader that's struggling with attracting, keeping, and developing top performers, that's where we're focused.
Right.
On that book. We also work with a lot of people I call in the life coach business who are coaching our material. Our whole business is now equipping, supporting, encouraging speakers, trainers, and coaches to go out to build their own business and to share the Ziglar message with it.
Right.
That's what we do.
And that was an awesome convention to be at. I was with you a couple of months ago.
I know. It seems like yesterday.
It does. Oh, buddy,
so
thank you.
I got a quick question for you.
Okay.
And this is off of when you talked about truth, and I kind of internally in my head, it's little T and big T, truth.
Right. True and truth. Yeah.
So I started thinking about, we've got a leadership crisis. And one of the words that you never hear when people are saying, hey, they're a great leader because, and they start naming off their attributes or their accomplishments or whatever, you never hear the word wisdom. And yet I've never heard anybody say, I want an intellectual, experienced, charismatic communicator who's also a fool, right?
Right.
You know, and if you ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think wisdom is in a time of disruption for a leader to have? I mean, do you want your military leader to have wisdom? Do you want your president to have wisdom? Do you want they're all going to say it's a 10. And so here's the quote I want you to bounce off of. Humility is the taproot of wisdom. And so we know what root is. Taproot is the main root, and its sole purpose is to find the water. And then other roots spring out of it. So in a spiritual sense, the taproot is looking for the truth.
That is such a great statement, because wisdom is a deeper understanding of principle.
It's properly applied knowledge, usually with a moral, with morality and ethics applied.
Humility is the taproot.
So here's what I'm saying is, so how do you know if you should vote somebody for someone? Are they humble? Oh, no, they're not humble. Then they don't have wisdom. So do you want to vote for a fool? Because humility allows you to understand you may not have all the answers. You may not have the perspective. You may need to get other people who are better than you. If you're arrogant, so think of the opposite of humility: arrogance, pride, self-righteousness. You're blocked off. So can you really know the truth if you're not humble? No, because you know the truth.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted you to bounce off of, is that.
I'll be thinking about that a lot.
there's a Confucius quote, and he said that humility is the foundation upon which all virtues grow. Right. All over Proverbs, it
Humility is
talks of
mentioned. Yeah.
wisdom. But I was trying to figure out, okay, it seems like every person's flawed. We know that. Leaders, but it's almost like we value the wrong things in a leader, because what we should value is wisdom.
Yeah.
So play with that.
Yeah, I will. Thank you for being with us.
You guys are awesome.
Well, we appreciate you guys so much, and you and your family, and one of the funniest things in my life is to see your daughter and the rigmarole she went through to get that tire changed. So glad to hear that finally happened. So anyway, thank you, Tom, and we will see you soon.
See you soon, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Wigglers for the cast and crew by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional funding provided by On and On and On. Have you been accused of talking too much? Do you find yourself butting into conversations in which you are not even interested? Friend, you are an addict, and just as dangerous to yourself and fellow man as it would be if you were addicted to crack, crank, or those little umbrella drinks they sell at the beach. Say it now. I am an addict. I cannot stop talking. I've hit rock bottom. On and on and on is a safe place for you where privacy is respected and dignity is restored. A schedule of punishments is posted in the lodge every morning for those who simply will not shut up. So bring your meds with prescription to On and On and On, and try this weekend's Vow of Silence holiday. That's On and On and On for the lovable loudmouth in your family.